Welcome, weary wanderers. The cold still clings, but beneath it, something moves. A pulse, a promise, a soft awakening in the dark. If you're enjoying our journey together through the echoes from the loam, please do share, like, or review. Every little helps and it is so appreciated. So today we reflect on that flicker of life and look into the quiet heart of Imbolc. Imbolc arrives not with thunder, but with a whisper, the soft sigh of thawing earth, the hush of snowmelt beneath the hedgerow. It's the quickening of the year, when life stirs unseen beneath the soil, and the first lambs cry out in the cold. The word Imbolc is often traced to Imbolc, in the belly, evoking both the ewes heavy with milk and the pregnant promise of spring. Imbolc is one of the 8 Sabbats and one of the 4 major Gaelic seasonal festivals, alongside Samhain, Beltane and Lunasa. Traditionally celebrated on February 1st, marking the midpoint between winter solstice and spring equinox. In ancient Britain and Ireland, Imbolc was observed through natural cues, not fixed calendars. The signs often included snowdrops and crocuses piercing the soil, blackthorn blooming in hedgerows, longer daylight hours, and shifting bird calls and milk returning to the herd, a vital source of nourishment after the winter. These markers varied by region and by year. Some communities celebrated Imbolc at the nearest full moon, aligning with lunar rhythms and lambing cycles. In folklore, the February full moon is called the snow moon, a time of tension between winter's grip and spring's promise. Imbolc is deeply associated with St. Bridget, a goddess in Celtic mythology and later a Christian saint. As a goddess, Bridget presides over fertility and childbirth, healing and poetry, the forge and craftsmanship. She is a triple goddess, embodying Maiden Mother Crone, and at Imbolc she appears as the maiden, bringing light, inspiration and renewal. In one mythic thread, she keens at the death of her son, her cry becoming the first morning song, the sacred lament. Thus she is also a goddess of grief and transformation, holding a sacred space for sorrow as a necessary passage to rebirth. In Christian tradition, St. Bridget of Kildare is celebrated on February 1st. Her feast day overlaps with Imbolc, and many of her miracles echo pagan motifs, healing wells, sacred flames, and protection over livestock. Bridget's dual identity reflects the syncretism of Celtic and Christian beliefs. She is both ancestral and enduring. Imbolc was celebrated with domestic and communal rituals, many of which still survive in modern practice. Traditional customs often include lighting candles and hearth fires to welcome Bridget and the returning sun, weaving Bridget's crosses from rushes or straw, hung in homes for protection, and leaving cloth or ribbon outside overnight for Bridget to bless, often used later on for healing. In rural communities, wells and springs were visited at dawn. Water was drawn in silence, believed to carry Bridget's blessing. These rituals were not grand. They were quiet acts of renewal, rooted in land, livestock, and lineage. Imbolc is a festival of thresholds. It marks the shift from dark to light, the movement from stillness to growth, and the transformation from introspection to action. Symbolically, it's a time to cleanse the home and hearth, reflect on your intentions for the year ahead, and honour the ancestors while preparing new life. Imbolc is not a celebration of what is, but rather a promise of what will be. The most common colours used in Imbolc are white to reflect snow, purity and new beginnings, gold to reflect the returning light and Bridget's flame, green for hope and new life stirring, and red representing the hearth fire, life force and Bridget's forge. The most common flowers and herbs used at this time are snowdrops for the first bloom and hope, the crocus to show awakening and joy, heather for protection and healing, and bay laurel, used for clarity and to represent the sacred fire, and sometimes chamomile for peace and for purification. It reminds us that beneath the frozen soil, life stirs, that in the belly of the ewe, spring waits, and that in the flicker of a candle, hope returns. As the first light stirs beneath the frost, may renewal find those who listen. May the quiet spark of Imbolc guide us from stillness into becoming, and may every small flame remind us that warmth returns. Imbolc is a fire festival, not for bonfires of celebration, but for the light returning. Candles, embers, and hearth flames symbolising the sun's slow strengthening, the idea of kindling the year, influenced later seasonal customs across Europe. Imbolc was a time to cleanse the home, your tools, and even your spirit. Many modern spring cleaning traditions echo these early purification rites. And Imbolc was favoured time for weather omens, dream interpretation, and seeking guidance for the coming year. The idea that early February holds predictive power. So Imbolc's influence is subtle but widespread, woven into seasonal rhythms, household rituals, and the psychological relief of knowing that winter is turning and the weather is warming. Today, Imbolc is celebrated globally by pagans, spiritual practitioners, and those who simply enjoy marking the seasons. Modern pagans often gather at sacred sites like Kildare, Glastonbury, and other stone circles across the countryside, usually with candle lighting rituals or offerings at wells and springs, poetry, music, and seasonal feasting. And in North America, Imbolc has become a key part of the Wheel of the Year, especially for Wiccans and contemporary pagans, most hosting things like fire ceremonies or workshops on renewal, community rituals focused on creativity and rebirth. In Australia and the Southern Hemisphere, because the seasons are reversed, Imbolc is celebrated in August, aligning with local winter, and practitioners tend to adapt the festival to their environment. Online, digital gatherings have become increasingly popular, with virtual rituals and guided meditations. So Imbolc is a reminder that transformation begins quietly. It's the whisper before the thaw, the spark before the flame. And whether celebrated through ritual, meditation, or simply noticing the lengthening of the days, Imbolc invites us to honour the moment when hope returns to the world. It's a festival that asks us to pause, breathe, and recognise the subtle beginnings of change within the land, and within ourselves. So here's a poem to commemorate Imbolc. When the first light stirs beneath the snow, and the earth turns softly in her sleep, a whisper threads the frozen fields, a promise winter cannot keep. The air is thin with waiting breath, the hedgerows hold their secret flame, and every stone remembers warmth, though nothing yet looks changed by name. The sheep stand quiet in the dusk, their breath a silver-threaded veil, and deep within the mother's womb, the lamb begins its fragile tale. The river loosens at the edge, a single crack, a softened seam, as if the world, still half asleep, lets slip the ending of a dream. We gather candles in our hands, small suns against the lingering cold, and light them not for what we see, but for the stories we were told. That fire is born in hidden places, that hope begins before it's seen, that even in the darkest hour, the seed remembers how to green. We sweep the hearth, we cleanse the floor, we open windows to the night, inviting in the trembling spark that grows into returning light. No thunder marks this turning point. No grand procession fills the land. Imbolc moves like breath on glass, a fleeting warmth against the hand. Yet in that hush, the world is shifting, the wheel is waking slow and sure, and every ember in the gate burns brighter than it did before. So let the candles line the sill, let quiet hearts begin to rise. For spring is not a sudden thing, it starts with barely opened eyes. And we, like seeds beneath the frost, feel something ancient call us through. A stirring in the belly of the year, a fire learning how to renew. When the first light stirs, we answer it, with flame, with hope, with whispered song. For Imbolc teaches this alone, the smallest spark can still be strong. As we come to the end of this exploration of Imbolc, it's worth stepping back and noticing just how quietly powerful this festival really is. Imbolc isn't loud, dramatic or showy. It doesn't arrive with trumpets and thunder. Instead, it slips into the year like a soft breath, an almost imperceptible shift that signals the beginning of change. It marked the moment when the first signs of life returned, the day stretching just a little longer, the earth loosening beneath the frost. For people whose survival depended on the cycles of livestock and the land, this was a deeply meaningful turning point. It meant nourishment, renewal, and the reassurance that winter's grip was weakening. Its pagan symbolism reflects that same quiet strength. Fire representing the sun, not in full blaze, but in its earliest spark. And purification rituals echoing the desire to clear out the old and make way for what's coming. The theme of fertility, of seeds stirring beneath the soil, reminds us that growth begins long before it's visible. And today, Imbolc is celebrated around the world in ways that honour both tradition and personal meaning. In the Southern Hemisphere, with it aligning with local winter in August, with pagan practitioners gathering at sacred sites and online communities gathering, no matter where or how it's observed. The heart of Imbolc remains the same. That recognition of subtle beginnings, of the year finally waking up. And that's why Imbolc still resonates. It speaks to the part of us that understands transformation, and that it doesn't always start with a dramatic moment. Sometimes it begins with the softest of whispers, reminding us that renewal is a process, a journey, not a moment. The poem you heard earlier captures that beautifully, a reminder that the smallest spark can carry us forward. So as we close this episode, take a moment, notice those subtle changes around you, the lengthening days, the softening air, the way the world feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for the next chapter. Thank you for joining me in this exploration of Imbolc, its history and its symbolism and its enduring magic. And may this turning of the wheel bring you clarity, warmth, and the first spark of whatever you're ready to grow next. Blessed be, weary wanderers.